I started thinking, and obviously I came to the conclusion that I'm fortunate to have a son who's a marvelous chef. That he would prepare a wonderful meal. I thought it was worthwhile.
Yeah.
Certainly want to thank Jeff, Susan, and Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
The backbone, and Greg was there in whatever capacity. But
That's right.
Very often, and we're very pleased when we do get to see him. So this has been a wonderful event.
It's all being recorded.
And seeing friends that I don't get to see frequently, which is really fun, really neat. And you know, I was reminiscing with some of the friends talking about high school days and.
You can remember back that far.
Yeah, well, I try. Certainly there's some failures in my memory, and I probably embellish some of the memories I have, but for the most part, I think I've got some wonderful memories, and certainly have wonderful friends, and I want to thank you again for all of you coming to this momentous occasion, and Joey, who did the invitation, Joey's up there.
Hey.
Thank you, Gary.
I want to thank him on the invitation. In a very small print, he put no gift. And a lot of you subscribed to that, but some of you that didn't see that brought gifts. And I see a lot of them were bottles of wine, which I love wine and I appreciate the wine. Importantly, I looked at some of the wines and I saw some that said need aging. And that made me feel real good. And I saw some that said they're ready to drink, and I thought these folks don't think they're going to do this again. Hopefully they're wrong. Anyway, without
Bobby, are you?
I don't know whether Jeff and Susan and Greg thought about entertainment, but I did, and we are very honored to have. I want to say he's a personality, but he is a personality. I don't think he's a well-known personality, but he is a personality. His name's Bob Kelly, and he knows more poetry. And this is off the cuff. He has no idea that he's being called upon. This guy is skilled, and he's going to come up, and we're going to be putting our hands together after that.
Yay!
Everything was fantastic. Gary, my grandmother said, any story worth telling is worth embellishing. And that's true. Last night we heard a lot of stories about Gary, and I wish you were all here because they were funny. But Gary, back years ago in his wild youth, he was tough. He was real tough. Gary was so tough, he couldn't get enough of lively confrontation. And being his friend, I'm asked to defend his slight miscalculation. Among his mistakes, too often he makes none of his business his. So I counsel restraint, because sometimes he ain't as tough as he thinks he is. Like the time he cut loose in a bar named The Moose in Dillon on rodeo night, I stayed on his trail in hopes to prevail and maybe prevent us a fight. But Gary is headstrong, and it didn't take long until he got into a debate involving a chair, a big hunks of hair, and starting to obligate. With his friends I could see, which only was me, in fact I couldn't ignore, and taking his arm to lead him from harm, I drug my pal to the door. No one disagreed, and I thought that we made our escape free and clear. Till Gary turned to the crowd and said good and loud, "Who is the toughest guy here?" Not the smartest remark in a place this dark. Gary had gone way too far. No one said a word, but I knew they heard, because all heads turned to the bar. And there in a hole stood a power pole. Pressure for all of his peers. Ugly for hire. He wore a truck tire that came down clear over his ears. He had on on some chaps with big rubber straps, but they was over his arms instead. And he sported a pattern like the planet of Saturn. His eyebrows went clear around his head. His good eye glared. His nostrils flared like a winded Lippinzon that lent him an air of a wounded bear whose pointer had been stepped upon. A crescent wrench swung from where it hung on a log chain wrapped round his neck, along with a claw, a circular saw, and parts from a Harley wreck. With his sumo girth, he needed no shirt. Hell, there wasn't any place to tuck it. And wonders don't cease, he wore a codpiece made from a backhoe bucket. This guy was Fantasyland, Marlboro Man, and heartburn all rolled into one. From where I was looking, our goose, it was cooking. Our cowboy days were done. He spoke from the hole like a thunder roll comes from under the sea. He swallowed his snuff. He said, "You're hunting tough. I reckon that'd be me." I heard a pin drop. The clock even stopped. Silence, except for me heaving. Only Gary instead just pointed and said, "Hey, you, take over. We're leaving."
Yeah. Woo. Hey.
Well, this one's a little shorter. Well, he's laying by the stove, licking places that's obscene. But I'll have to give him credit, at least he's trying to keep them clean. And when he goes outside, he drags his wormy butt back and forth across the lawn till he almost wears a rut. And when people come to visit, though they seldom come around, he sniffs their crotch so hard he almost lifts them off the ground. He chases cars and chickens, and he killed the neighbor's sheep. And if he weren't Gary Mall, it had put to sleep. Thanks, Cindy, for everything here.
Sometimes you take things for granted.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I take nothing for granted, but certainly I want to thank Cindy for many, many, many years.
Hey.
Cindy!
Obviously, Susan and Jeff and Greg worked very, very hard on this event, but behind the scenes, there was a woman that takes the lead, and that's my woman, that's Cindy. And interestingly enough, Cindy, you're looking across to the back fence, you see the bed, and that was a crib that Jeff and Greg slept in as children.
Oh my God.
Point of interest. Thank you.
Hey. Happy birthday, Dad.